Uh-oh.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home Impodcast time.
That's right. Binford Tools is proud to present a Home Improvement Podcast. My name is Adam. You all know my co-host, Jordan.
Partner. Oh, I didn't realize we were doing this live.
Jordan, the folks are excited. We finally hit our 100th episode milestone. A lot of people said it would never be done.
Here we are in the diamond episode.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
wow.
Diamond
episode. Yeah, I guess, we showed them. Jordan, the haters, they've been here since day one.
They're still here, but...
They're still here, but they drive us, and here we are to reap the fruit of our labors.
And boy, is it fruitful.
It is.
It's delicious.
And tasty.
Delicious.
Jordan, being that this is our 100th episode, we've got a lot going on today.
We do. Do you want to inform everyone what's going to happen?
Yeah, I do. I think before we get into our opening kind of banter here, just quickly run through what's going to happen. So, Jordan, we are going to talk about the aptly named Wilson's Girlfriend, and that's the last episode of the 4th season. With that, we're going to do our season in summation talk, which, running through best and worst episodes, guest stars, things like that. If you've been listening to the show, you've heard us do it 3 times before. And then we're going to roll into just kind of a 100th episode discussion. So we have some questions.
This is going to be more big picture stuff, right?
Big picture, kind of deep. I suspect you'll weep a little bit.
I already have several times thinking about the questions.
You've been crying all morning, I heard, through the grapevine. And then we'll stop from there. And then I think our Carmen Finestra interview will drop at a date to be determined after we talk off air. Jordan?
Yeah, it seems to be up in the air.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have one thing that I want to do with it, and you want something else to do with it.
Yeah,
so.
we have to get on the same page. And you know what? That's one of the challenges of having a podcast. Jordan, I'm going to give you some true or false statements, okay?
All right, here we go.
All right, so Jordan, first thing. Would you agree that we live in a data-driven world, true or false?
Oh, 100% true.
Okay.
I just had to learn how to use Tableau for work, and if that's not data-driven, then I don't know what is.
Hey, I'll tell you what. Tableau, tablet,
taboo?
talk, taboo. It's all over my head. Second, true or false, Jordan? Would you say that we don't really know a lot about our true? Let me pose it to true or false. Like I said, Jordan, true or false? We don't know who listens to our podcast. Nor do we understand.
Yeah, I would say that's true because there's many things that we've tried as far as Patreon and getting questions and, specific polls. And they just don't, how many listens we get from the people who participate, it just doesn't quite add up to me. So I would say we don't really know what our audience is about.
Hundreds of thousands of downloads a day, in fact. And we just don't know anything about these people until today. Jordan... I'm going to say Jordan a lot this episode. It's kind of my thing.
Adam?
Jordan.
What are you going to tell me?
I read in a book one time that, people, if you call someone by their name...
It's their favorite word.
Yeah, they really like it. It's their favorite word, right? So we have special Twitter analytics. This is from the Audience Insights section of our Twitter. And basically, this isn't going to take into account necessarily our downloads or who downloads our podcast, but these are the people who follow us on Twitter. To date, we have 439 followers, and I can tell you, Jordan, that's 18 more than 30 days ago, which is surprising.
A substantial increase.
Yeah, it's substantial. Like I said, the followers continue to go up, but we don't necessarily know how or why. But I do have I have some things here, some analytics. I have gender, I have interests, and I have wireless carrier, which I think is a little bit weird, or maybe a step too far. We're going to focus on interest today. So, 100th episode. You've been with us since the beginning. We want to reward you, our listeners, by talking about the topics that are most important to you.
We're going to cover all of them.
Yeah, no, I don't think we will. There's a lot, but okay. We'll cover the top 5 or 6.
You told me this was going to be different than the way you're doing it now, so I guess I'm confused.
Yeah, well, I'd like to keep you guessing, Jordan. I'd like to keep you guessing.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, yeah. So, first interest, 96% of our audience is interested in the topic of weather, Jordan. So
a topic near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, often we talk about how no one could possibly care about what the weather's like. Well, we couldn't have been more wrong.
We need to talk more. And they probably loved that Wilsometer segment that we used to have.
Oh, I know, and here we thought that was a big failure, but come to find out it was probably the best thing we've ever done. Jordan, 96% of our audience, that's pretty much all of our audience, likes talking about weather. So, go first. What's it like down there today?
As you can imagine, summer in Florida, it is sunny, it is hot, it's 100-something degrees. Thank goodness for air conditioning, that's all I can say. What about
good
Adam?
Stuff.
Adam,
good stuff, yeah.
Well, we also had a thunderstorm last night, and I don't know about you, but sleeping through thunderstorms, that's a good time.
Oh, yeah. Scratching me right where I itch, and our listeners. How about I take the reins here?
Please.
Jordan, it's overcast. I haven't been out. Well, I was outside this morning briefly, but I haven't been outside in quite a few hours. I guess
you're going a little crazy. Huh?
Yeah, I'm losing my mind. I guess it's about 80 degrees. It's been a hot summer in suburban Chicago, and I don't want to complain, but our electricity bill has really skyrocketed with the use of the air conditioner.
It's a good thing that you're getting so much money from this podcast, because otherwise you couldn't afford it.
Yeah, so much so that I called the electricity company the other day and I said, "What are the bills so high for?" And she said, "You're using your air conditioner too much." All right, so that's number one, keeping the people happy. Jordan, number two is a tie.
Ooh.
And we're going to skip one of them, and that's comedy, is 77%, so comedy, specifically hobbies and interests. We're going to skip that one because I think the other one is going to be more interesting.
Okay.
Jordan, coming in at second place, 77% of our audience is interested in science news.
Science news.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
kind
got
of
anything?
related with weather, meteorology, something you can study in school.
Yep.
And science news. I mean, what's the biggest science news you've heard lately?
Well, the only thing that's coming to mind is and this has been a couple months ago, I don't keep myself up to date on science, but I heard something about Barbara Streisand cloning her dog.
Oh, yes. We did talk about that. I think we mentioned...
Did we talk about it on air? Well,
I think it was in
me.
passing. I think it was one of those... I think our science news fans really got it, but no one else did.
You know what? And that made me think, people with money, they're doing all kinds of weird things in science behind closed doors that us Gen Pop people, we're not going to know about years in advance. I mean, Barbara Streisand, she's wealthy, but there are people a lot wealthier than her, and who knows what they're up to. Thoughts?
Wow. I mean, that's a big rabbit hole to go into, which, I mean, rabbits are related to science as well.
Yeah, talk about that.
Just biology, animal biology, and all that type of stuff. I was reading an article recently about sleep in the National Geographic.
Yeah.
My father-in-law gets that, so I read that every once in a while. And they were talking about how important REM sleep is, and they still are learning so much about sleep patterns. There was a time where people thought that sleep was just a waste of time, and now they're really trying to fight against that stereotype, and I think they've got an uphill battle to climb.
That's interesting that you say that people at one point thought sleep was a waste of time, because I've never heard that.
Really? Yeah, people... Well, think about it now, how productive and busy people are.
Yeah.
And what goes first, Do you watch Netflix or do you go to bed?
I usually watch Netflix, then I go to bed.
Well, exactly. You're delaying your sleep.
Okay.
They were talking about how there were places in, I think... It was either Japan. I think it was Japan is like the most sleep-deprived country. They have places where you can just like go there and sleep in little sleep pods.
I have heard about that. Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Okay. Next, Jordan. Well, I'm going to skip over. 70% of our audience is interested. They are interested in space and astronomy, but to me, that's pretty close to science, and I don't know that I have anything unique to say.
You've always loved the stars. That's all you want to say.
Yeah.
Favorite constellation?
Jordan, I'm not going to answer that question because I can't. But I do like the opening song in La La Land, City of Stars.
Oh, nice. So, good transition.
Yeah, it is. 67% of our listeners, Jordan, they like dogs.
Wow. What's your favorite type of dog, I guess?
Give me a golden retriever.
Just a classic golden
retriever.
They're adorable.
I have something to say on the topic of dogs. I'm currently reading a book called The Art of Racing in the Rain. It was a real popular book probably 5 to 6 years ago. Recommended.
That's kind of how you are with trends too. Just 5 to 6 years late.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm usually on the cutting edge of fashion, but in some cases, you might be right. Back to this book. This book is told through the perspective of a dog.
Wow.
And it was recommended from Kirsten, my girlfriend, but I'm finding it to be kind of sad and sort of a bummer. So, I'm trudging my way through it. I'm more than halfway done. I do intend to finish, but...
do you think... I mean, I don't want to interrupt you, but I am.
Yeah.
Do you think that your girlfriend was thinking that you were too jolly and she wanted to bring you down?
I think she wants us to get a dog, and maybe this is like a subtle way of her,
of her
hinting at that. We'll get a dog when we have a yard. And
that's pretty good policy.
And she can quote me on that. Jordan, what's your take on dogs? Good, bad? You're allergic, probably.
I am. That is correct. But I've always liked them, and they always seem attracted to me because they know of my allergy, I would assume.
Sexually attracted?
No,
you're not sure. Okay.
We're not talking about that.
Okay.
I can think of one time where I was running in our neighborhood, and I had my headphones on, and a dog came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it must have had one of those, like, invisible fences. I know you love invisible fences.
Love them, yeah.
Love them. It ran out past the invisible fence, and then it started to get hurt.
Oh.
But it surprised me so much that I did a barrel roll in the street and just kept running.
Did you feel guilty that you caused the dog to, be like... Well, I guess the owner should feel guilty. Those fences are inhumane. Which is why we don't use them on humans.
I mean, that dog, pretty powerful that it would just run right through that. It really wanted to come say hi to me.
Yeah.
But I do like dogs, despite that fact.
Jordan, moving on down the list, 67% like tech news. We're going to skip that. Or do you have something to say?
I mean, I love tech news.
We're going to have to skip it because I don't. 66% like music festivals and concerts. I can talk a little bit about that. A few weeks back, I went to the Kenny Chesney... I don't remember the name, but I think it was...
It was probably the one
I think it was No Shoes Tour?
It was probably When the Sun Goes Down, We'll Be Groovin'.
Yeah, he did sing that. What was it, No Shoes Tour? I don't know, something like that. He doesn't like to wear shoes.
Well, I mean, who does?
Who does? I mean, I'm not wearing any right now.
Heck no.
Soldier Field, Kenny Chesney, Thomas Rhett, Old Dominion, about 6 to 7 hours long. Lots of drinks were had. I didn't know many of the songs, but I had a good time.
That's all that matters.
And that's all that matters. Jordan, music festivals, concerts, anything?
Man, I haven't been to one in a long time. The last one we tried to go to was at the House of Blues. There was a John Bellion concert, which my wife likes him.
Your wife is your life, so Freudian slip, right?
Yeah, a little bit. But we waited through the line, and we got in there, and we were waiting for him to come on. About an hour later, this is when she was pregnant.
Yeah, who's this guy again?
John Bellion.
Not familiar.
Is
he in Blues Traveler? I like Blues Traveler and Blues Brothers. So if it's a blues act, they better have blues.
No, it was just House of Blues. That's all.
Okay, that's it. All right.
But anyway, he has some stuff on the radio, kind of poppy-ish, rap poppy. I don't know what to call it.
Wow, rap, pop, blues. That's
indie, not blues. There's no blues. Where are you getting the blues?
He played at the House of Blues, therefore he must.
Well, Vance Joy played there too, and so did a million other people, but it's not blues. It's just what it's called.
Okay,
Anyway,
are you trying to pull the wool over my eyes here?
No, I don't do that. This isn't Dolly the sheep talk anymore, okay?
All right.
But we waited, and then she felt nauseous through that whole thing, so we had to leave. So that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
She loved him and did not get to see him. So
she probably got a whiff of the food that's coming out of the House of Blues kitchen and thought, ew.
She was just mad because she knew there wouldn't be any blues.
Yeah, she felt ripped off. Jordan, last thing we're going to talk about.
Okay.
59% like comedy, music, and television. That makes sense. 55% like sports news. And I'm just going to talk... I watched the first episode of the season of Hard Knocks this morning, which chronicles the...
Browns?
Preseason of the Cleveland Browns. And, it's a sad state of affairs for Cleveland. They went 0-16 last year. And Hard Knocks opens with Hugh Jackson, who... is just a terrible NFL coach, just one of the worst. It's amazing that he has a job. He jumped in to, I guess it was Lake Erie, because he said if they didn't make the playoffs that he was going to do that. Not only did they not make the playoffs, they didn't win a game.
You couldn't get farther away from that goal.
But it gets worse. The first episode, his mother passes away, and then come to find out 2 weeks ago, his brother passed away.
Oh my goodness!
Despite the fact that Hugh Jackson is a terrible coach, and I'm not going to say he's not, I feel for the guy, and it was kind of a sad first episode of Hard Knocks.
Man, that is sad. Boy. Yeah, your heart goes out to him. That makes me think of the other day. I was listening to a podcast. I won't say who it was because
Is it The Competition?
No, no, it's not The Competition.
Is it those other guys?
No, it's that whole network that you hate so much, but you also listen to.
You don't even.
I'm not going to
don't use the R word.
It's like Voldemort in here. I will not name them.
Did you say Voldemort? There's a T at the end.
No, it's French. There's no T. I mean, there is a T, but it's not pronounced.
Okay. Why doesn't J.K. Rowling stop retconning everything she created in her books and do something else useful? That's what I think she should do.
She is. She's doing Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah. Okay. You were saying?
Anyway, they talked about basically doing the same thing as Hard Knocks, but for a basketball team, and what team would they pick? Mm-hmm. And they came up with the Dallas Mavericks. They thought that would be interesting.
That's a terrible choice. There's sexual harassment stuff surrounding them.
They said that would be bad. They have the exciting new rookie, and they have Dirk in his final years, so they like that dynamic. But they also put you can't do any playoff team. You can't do the Lakers because that
caveats.
Would be So that's what they both came up with. But yeah, that is the big bugaboo around that situation, isn't it?
Tremendous bugaboo. Yeah, it's a shame that they hire monsters.
You would definitely say the Pistons, right? They would be entertaining with Blake.
I was thinking Brooklyn Nets because I feel like the Nets moved to Brooklyn and people immediately stopped caring about them. When I feel like when a team moves to one of the biggest cities the biggest city in the country, they should become more popular.
Well, now they're
less popular.
Well, they're in such a big shadow of the Knicks. I mean,
I just think that I think they should get their share of the limelight.
I think they should. You know what's funny? I was they said that you just said the Knicks were terrible. I thought it was funny. They just announced the NBA Christmas Day games and they put the Knicks on there.
They always do that.
And I'm like, why? They're not good.
And they don't even have Carmelo. You used to be able to say it's Carmelo v. LeBron or something a matchup that should be interesting.
They have Porzingis, who's interesting, but he might not even be back because he's injured right now. So it's why are you doing this?
Jordan, 48% of our listeners, the last one, education, news, and general info. We're not going to talk about that. And
what's general info?
Educational info? I don't actually know.
No, did you say education, news, and general info?
Yeah, it's the same category. You can click on it, but I'm afraid if I click... Well, I clicked on it. Nothing happened.
Accidentally clicked on it.
Nothing happened. And we have 71% male Twitter followers, 29% female. Jordan?
You know what's funny? I think our female members interact with us way more.
More vocal.
Way more vocal.
Top language, English. Makes sense.
Surprise.
Top wireless carrier.
Oh, wait, let me guess.
Go ahead.
T-Mobile.
That is fourth.
Oh, Verizon probably.
Yeah. 34% Verizon, 32% AT&T, 14% Sprint, and then T-Mobile. And then,
if I recall, you are...
we don't need to say what we are, Jordan.
You're a cricket guy?
Doesn't seem important. Yeah, I'm Rogers Wireless. That's 3% of our listenership is something called Rogers Wireless. Jordan, I think we've come up with an opening bit that will ensure that no one comes back for episode 101.
Yeah, it's weird that we would start our Diamond episode with such uninteresting banter.
Nonsense? I thought it was good. I liked it. At the very least, it was fun for me.
Well, you know what? Our female audience will let us know because our male audience definitely won't.
29% of our Twitter followers will reach out. No.
Absolutely. All right.
What are we covering this week?
With that, we're going to cover episode 100, Wilson's Girlfriend, the end of season 4. There's just a lot of things going on right now. Episode 100, end of a season. Twitter information, just a lot going on. Okay, so this one's written by Howard J. Morris. He last did Super Bowl Fever. Is this the first time that we've had a finale that's not written by the co-creators?
That's a question that would require additional research.
And we don't do that. But I feel like that is true.
Yeah.
Most certainly someone will let me know. If not, maybe in about 3 years. But this one aired May 23rd, 1995. Couple of plot keywords. Not sure if you want to talk about them or not, but one is acne and the other is makeup.
I don't want to talk about those. No.
Okay. Well, then we're going to move on to the alternative titles,
Okay.
of which you said you have bad ones. How many bad ones do you have?
4.
I also have 4.
Okay. I will let you go first.
That's so kind of you. Since this is such a romantic episode, Brad and Miss Lutz, and then Wilson and the titular girlfriend, I was thinking, to blush or not to blush?
It's pretty good, Jordan. I'll start with something similar, and that is all's fair in love in the Punic War. It's concise, it's short, yeah.
Yeah, and it really gets down to what happens in the episode. How about Bradley K?
Like Mary Kay.
Yes.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
correct.
I'll do this one, alliterative. Brad's bad blemish. You can see I really brought
It's
my
kind of
fastball
like-
for episode 100.
Big Baller Brand. Same thing, right?
Yeah, just like we're done talking about sports. We already did
Oh,
that.
sorry. All right, I've got 2 Wilson ones to end with. The first one is how Wilson got his groove back.
That's pretty good. This is a terrible one. Making up and making out. Yeah, sexy.
I like it.
Just like
All
this
right,
episode.
my last one is just a question. I have a general question about this episode, and they definitely answer it. It's, how many ways can you hide Wilson's face?
Yeah, it is not much of a title, but it's a fair question. Here's my last one. Mates of the Midwest. That was the only good one I could come up with. I don't know, I had a tough time.
That's all right. I like that one.
Yeah, all right.
All right, so plot synopsis. It seems only right that Bernie should write the 100th plot synopsis. So, Brad has a pimple before a big date. Jill sets Wilson up on a blind date with one of her professors, Judith. They seem compatible, but Wilson seems happy to keep their relationship on an intellectual level only. Thanks, Bernie.
Yep, that does it.
That does it. 20 so minutes into the podcast, I suppose we should start talking about the actual episode.
You know, I think we should talk more about, like, mobile carriers
Weather. Well,
and,
that, you know,
weather.
it didn't say 96% of our followers like home improvement, but they do like weather.
They do love weather. Jordan, I'll take the reins on the opening scene here.
You loved the rains today.
If you don't mind. This is and Jordan, just to remind you, this is the start of our 100th episode.
Yeah, so let's do it right.
Just take a moment and soak that in. All right. It's Bachelor Week on Tool Time, and presumably they've been running through a different thing every day. It's cited that yesterday Tim did a tutorial on shaving in the car, and then
With bad results, it looks like.
Yeah, the camera cuts to Tim, and it didn't go well. He's got nicks and cuts all over.
Pause.
But today, yeah, yes, Jordan, sure. This is undoubtedly going to be good.
Well, I was just wondering, we haven't had an update in a while about how your hair is doing.
Oh,
You were
good.
surprised by that question.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's good. What made you think of this?
Well, shaving and letting your hair grow out. And
Yeah,
naturally.
haven't cut it in a long time. Here's the thing. I don't even remember the last time I got it cut.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think it looks great, frankly.
You haven't sent me any pictures or tweeted any pictures.
We don't send each other a lot of pictures, but
I don't think we sent each other any pictures.
We could start if you want. I'll send you a picture today. I'll take a blow dryer to it and really show you what I'm working with. But
Well, I know it's kind of hot today, so if you want to wait till it cools down, you can really get in your own
just see
element.
what my afternoon is like.
Okay.
If I have time, I'll do it. If not, but I appreciate you checking in.
Yeah,
I'd ask you about your daughter, but lack of time, we got to move on.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so Tim's shaving in the car. That happened yesterday. Today, Al is going to do a tutorial on ironing. He runs briefly through the history of irons.
Pause. Just
Jeez.
kidding. Sorry.
I was like, are you
Just
kidding me?
kidding.
It's not even a good opening scene. Let's just get it done. There is a joke. Tim does his visual gag 1, 2, 3, ending with Jeremy irons, and I didn't look this up, but he's the voice of Scar, correct?
Yeah, which
So this
JTT
is
was in.
JTT, Lion King, Disney kind of wink, I felt like.
Yeah, I like Jeremy Irons.
And I haven't seen a lot of... I know he's the butler in the new Batman movies, but I haven't seen any of those. So yeah, he Scar was memorable. Tim decides to use his own kind of version of a souped-up iron while Al is doing the tutorial. He puts too much starch on, and the shirt is... What happens to the shirt? It's ruined, but I don't
It
really
turns
know.
like rock hard, basically.
Yeah. And that's it. It's not a spectacular open.
No, kind of like our open, which seems fitting, right?
No, I thought ours was a lot better.
Well, I mean, people did clap for us, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, were we pandering to the audience that we had right in front of us? Probably, but you gotta give.
That's
give
also what
they
Tim's
want.
doing here because he gets some applause, I believe.
Yeah, he definitely gets some applause. Jordan, next scene.
At home, Randy is working on some homework. Brad comes down. He's got terrible news. He has a pit bull coming in. It's under his skin.
Sounded like you said pit bull.
He's got a pit bull under his skin
all day.
Randy shows no sympathy here. It's just mostly making jokes, talking about we could throw it like a coming out party. The real reason that this is such bad news is Brad has a date with Jessica Lutz. So this is the first we've heard of her, I believe, right?
Yeah, hopefully not the last.
Okay. Tim comes in and sympathizes with Brad, and he's got a way to get rid of it. I think he talks about a warm compress to help bring it
good
to the
advice.
surface.
This, I don't need to talk about my, personal hygiene, but I've been plagued with pimples over the years, and this is sound advice. It theoretically works as well, I guess, but not in the way Brad had hoped it would.
I mean, it brings the whole ordeal to a shorter kind of conclusion, I suppose, but that's not exactly what he wants. It's almost like he should have just left it alone and went on the date.
Yeah, but you know how those 14-year-old boys are.
Yeah, I do. Jill comes in.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little late because she took her professor Judith out for coffee.
Pause.
Did you get to know a lot of your professors?
Here's the thing. I kind of went back
You
and
probably
forth.
still keep in touch with all of them.
I went back and forth on this a couple times, thinking, like, could this happen in a reality? And, yeah, she could... I guess I've been in scenarios where, like, I've probably gone out to dinner with professors or been out to eat or whatever. So I don't think that is too far afield. But as time goes on and some of the details get a little more intimate between Jill and her professor and Wilson, I think it does maybe go a little too far. But so far I'm with it. At first I was like, no way. Like, this is just not happening. This relationship is pure fiction. But I suppose that she could have gone out to eat with her.
I think what makes, a big difference is that Jill is obviously quite a bit older. Yeah. So she's in a different life stage than you were with your professors at the time.
That's what you think.
Well, I guess that's true.
Hey, Jordan, that's debatable.
All right. Well, we're not going to debate it now because, as you keep saying, we don't have time.
We don't have time. Carry on.
All we have is time. Jill says that, she gives some information about Judith, how she is a divorcee, has been divorced for probably 30 years or so, has a couple of kids, but is a great woman, and she knows just the man for her. And that's Wilson. Yeah. And Tim is immediately defensive, basically tries to get her to back off because... that Wilson's
because
his.
It's a bad idea.
Well,
Jill is so meddlesome.
But that's not what
she
Tim
cites
is
the
worried
Al
about.
and Eileen. She's like, well, I set Al and Eileen up, and that's been great. Has it?
I mean, if they're still together, I suppose it has been.
I mean, I feel like all we've ever seen of Al and Eileen is strife.
Well,
Swiss Army strife.
Callback. I mean, it wouldn't be that exciting, I guess, for them to be around if they weren't. But... I'm just saying, she's counting it. She's like saying, like, oh, it's so great, Al and Eileen. It's like they've been dating, like, I don't know. Has it been a couple of months? Do they fight all the time? No, it's got to have been longer than that. Didn't they just have that, like, anniversary dinner and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, what was it? 5 months or something?
I don't know. Something like that.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like that's a decent, match for her to call back to. But Tim, he doesn't want anyone to take his Wilson time away. And he's especially out on Judith when he learns that she drives a station wagon, which...
Didn't Jill drive a station wagon?
Yeah, isn't the Nomad a station wagon? But I don't know. Tim wants what he wants, and that's what he wants,
Yeah,
but,
he's worried that she's going to take Wilson away from him, and he's not going to have anyone to talk to or to complain to about Jill. And, Jill calls him out on that.
She says, we could talk. Mm-hmm. He's like, no thanks.
And they're both like, haha, we can't communicate. It's funny. Yep.
And so he goes outside.
We're a broken couple. No, I'm just kidding. Jordan, we didn't talk about how we wanted to handle the various Wilson scenes here. I think maybe we'll play our clip when things get a little intimate at the end of the episode?
I'd say.
Okay. All right. So we're at the fence. Wilson is doing Wilson things. If you want me to get more specific, I can't. Do you know what he was doing?
He's hanging
something.
He's hanging ancient bells from Crete to attract friendly spirits.
Good notes. Jill approaches. Apparently, they had already had a plan to eat a dinner, which is a little convenient. And she's I mean, what the little convenient? I don't buy it. It's a step too far. You can tell me what you want about the professor, but you're telling me they had a planned dinner. I say no way.
No way.
So she's like, I know we had plans for us to come over to your house, but maybe you should come over to ours. There's someone I want you to meet. Wilson very quickly realizes that this is a setup, and he's a little concerned, doesn't want it to be awkward, but eventually he obliges. And
Jill says no pressure, and that's enough for him.
Yeah, that was all it took. So,
and that's what
Wilson has needs.
He does, and he's going to get some of them met. Brad is staring. Next scene, Brad is staring in the mirror at home. They do a sweet cutaway where the mirror kind of flies in.
It's freaky.
Freaky Friday.
Is this a Halloween episode?
Ooh.
Did I see a bat come out of the corner?
And then they had that really creepy mask guy come on. Do you remember what I'm talking about? It's that creepy guy in a mask and he's got gloves on and stuff.
Yeah, they always do stuff like that. I like it. It's like a fifth character, the graphics.
I can't. I'm surprised you didn't bring up Sex in the City.
No, I thought I'd spare you this time.
Right. So Brad is staring at the mirror. The pimple has exploded out from under the skin, and he looks like a clown, basically, and he feels like a clown. And the worst news is that there's T-minus 30 minutes to date time. Jill comes down with the solution. Her solution is a little bit of makeup will do.
There's no amount of makeup that could effectively hide what's on his nose, though.
No.
It's like the size of a quarter.
They'd basically have to take a knife and slice it off.
I'm glad they didn't. That would have been kind of gross. But
Pimple Popper, MD.
Brad is at first reluctant to try the makeup, but he buys in pretty quickly, and this will be a running thread.
Boy, will it. Bradley K is here.
Bradley K. All right, next scene. We're at Wilson's place.
Dinner time.
They're making the most of the Wilson home set in this one. We're in there quite a bit. Wilson hasn't been on a date in 20 years. He's sweating. He's nervous. He's not really seeking advice, but Tim is he's willing to give advice or trying to, but it's muddled. Judith arrives, and I have a bio on Judith.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Let's hear it.
Judith is played by Beth Dixon. Do you recognize her, Jordan? She's in some of your favorite stuff.
Sister?
Well, I'll have to click on the page first. She has 17 credits to her name. She was most recently in an episode of Mozart in the Jungle. She was in an episode of The Blacklist in 2014.
With Robert California?
Robert California himself, James Spader. I'll tell you what, I didn't know she was in this, but she's in the Storm of the Century TV miniseries, which is a Stephen King adaptation that I thought was really scary when I was 9, but probably is not as good as I remember it. But she is in 2 episodes of Home Improvement. She will come back again and advise and repent. Sounds kind of ominous. She repent for what, Wilson?
Uh-oh. Maybe Judith is repenting.
It's possible, yeah. She will be back, and we'll talk about her at the end of the episode. But, I think she's a welcomed addition here.
All right.
So do you want to pick it up, or do you want me to?
Well, yeah, I'll go. The doorbell rings, like you said, and Judith is there. It's a unique doorbell, as we would expect from Wilson.
We get a lot of Wilson's House's weird jokes, that so much so that I just kind of stopped writing it down.
Yeah. So I don't know if you noticed this too. She meets Tim, and Tim pretends that he's checking on her to see how she does in school. Does she do well? And there's some jokes there. Judith says something about nap time. She's
Tim
good.
Is does she play well with others? And Judith,
yes.
Judith is she gets cranky if she doesn't get nap time.
Knack time. Watch out for knacks.
Oh, jeez.
Then Wilson and Judith meet, and
Sparks fly.
There's some confusion about his name, the Wilson W. Wilson. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed this either, but they're holding hands through this whole conversation. They shake hands. I did not
notice that.
The whole time that they're being introduced, their hands are just together, shaking. And do you think there might have been some intimacy behind the scenes? I don't know, but I was blushing just watching.
Yeah, you were blushing. Brad's bad blemish was flaring up as well.
So then we learn a little bit more about Judith. She is obviously a professor. She also wrote a book that sold roughly 4 copies to the family. It's a niche psychoanalysis book on the mating patterns of insects, and Wilson actually finishes the title for her.
Yeah, termites, something termites of the Southwest. Wilson has read it, and so much so that he's dog-eared the pages, and he shows her, and now she says it's my turn to blush. So they're flirting pretty hard.
It's hot and heavy.
Wilson be thirsty. I might say.
For Wilson, having 20 years of a break, he seems to pick right up where he left off.
Where he left off, like riding a bike, Wilson would say. He would say it.
Okay.
He'd say it highfalutin kind of way.
Yeah. All right, so later outside, this is 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later. Wow,
Yeah.
a lot of time. Flash forward.
But they don't usually do this, but they do here.
At least they made it clear what was happening. I appreciated that,
Yeah. It would have been like the next day. We've been spending a lot of time together.
Wow, we're really close.
Wilson is carving a bust of Judith. Tim is thinking it's a breast of Judith.
Yeah, well, predictable bust humor. Yeah,
it's a little busty.
Yeah.
He's also singing some love songs. Tim comes outside. He's missing his pal a bit.
Yeah.
Says we haven't seen him in a while, and it turns out that Judith has become his muse.
He's smitten.
He is smitten, not to be sure. I mean,
yes, indeed, to be sure. He's smitten to beat the band, you might say. They have a date tonight, and Wilson's making haggis. Everybody, in the audience, groans as if I knew what haggis was. He explains it's like a goat kind of variation.
Sheep stomach.
Yeah, sheep stomach. I had heard of it before. The audience was like, well, I guess this was, this is 1995, showing its true colors. People are like, people are eating sheep. That's disgusting. The audience, audibly
This is
groans.
probably one of those jokes that we just don't get because we were so young in the 90s.
Jordan, we were not going to talk about that until
we're
next
not
week.
talking about anything.
We're going to talk about some audience feedback we got next week. So make sure you stick around for episode 101. Jordan's going to play good cop, and I'm going to...
Adam's going to play murder cop.
I'm going to do what I do.
Adam's going to get kicked off the force.
Next scene, living room. Jill comes home, and you know what? Tim is finally ready to kind of congratulate Jill, say that, you know what, you are a good matchmaker, and this has gone really well. And he mentioned this conversation with Wilson, saying how excited he is and whatnot, to which Jill says, oh no, because come to find out, Judith is having doubts about Wilson.
No.
Yeah, he refuses to get intimate. This is a funny guy.
This is hilarious.
Tim is confusing intimacy with impotency, I suppose.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's unable to. We all know what that means. We're a family-friendly podcast. I won't go any further. But he says that perhaps it's an old war injury. And it goes on quite a while, but it is funny. But what is actually the issue is that anytime Judith tries to get close to Wilson or have him talk about how he's feeling, he just kind of goes into, Wilson speak. He over-explains things.
Keeps things academic.
Talks about the Punic War. Yeah, it's he's... I guess you would say he has a fence around him, Jordan.
Oh,
the fence is a metaphor.
It sure is. It sure is. I don't think we need to say more about that. But Jill's solution is you need to talk to him, Tim.
Yeah. She knows it's not a good solution either.
Yeah, why did she talk to him? So Tim dutifully does so. He walks into Wilson's house. Wilson is cooking. He's still excited. Judith, he doesn't really waste any time. He talks about the problem that Judith has. And Wilson, at this point, is not really sure that he can open up. And he basically says, maybe we're just not meant to be.
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird.
He goes from being so happy to be like, well, I guess we're done.
Yeah, we see him earlier, presumably that, the fence, Tim's conversation with Jill, and then Tim going over to Wilson's house is all happening within, 15 minutes in real time, probably. So he goes from, just being... over the moon in love with her to the second Tim is you gotta talk about yourself, you gotta be intimate, and he's like, I don't know, probably not gonna work out. I tried. It's really funny. He mentions that they had festival plans to go to Punic War Festival, but Tim, and this is, you mentioned earlier, the how many ways can they hide Wilson's face, but throughout the episode they have to be pretty clever in how they
There's a lot of Wilson screen time.
Yeah, because Wilson's in this episode a lot, probably more than any other episode we've seen, I would guess. And they're pretty clever. Probably the funniest one is he's like in a doorway, and for whatever reason, there's a mask that is like hanging sideways, which doesn't really make any sense. But Wilson's like eyes and face line up with it. And he's talking to Tim kind of through this mask.
It almost looks like something that you would like use to put a torch in.
Okay, maybe. Yeah, to me it looked just like a mask that. Like
it did have a couple of holes that worked really well.
But you're probably right. But yeah, they're pretty clever in this episode with how they do that. I liked it. What were your thoughts on the various ways of concealing Wilson?
I thought they were all kind of interesting, and they were, there was everything from like that hanging thing in the kitchen to that. I do like what they do at the end when they're obviously just doing it on purpose. It just is like it's every single second. It goes from like candles to Judith's hand to whatever else. So, I liked it. I liked it enough to make an alternative title out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to like something to
That's the highest praise.
That's yeah. Tim, he gives good advice in this scene. He's trying to help Wilson, and, Wilson says it's not meant to be, and Tim says, it is meant to be. You should try, and that's basically how the scene ends.
So what is he going to do?
Well, he has to be intimate, Jordan.
Well, we're going to find out what he does.
We have to play a clip, don't we?
We do. We got to find out what's going to happen here.
Yeah, we have to play this clip right now. 100th episode clip. Let's get into it.
Wilson, I think we should talk.
I know what you're going to say, Judith. I haven't been very open to you.
I just don't understand why a man who can talk brilliantly about anything can't tell me about the one thing I really want to know.
Well, my family never really talked much about personal matters. Especially my father, Wilson Sr.
What was he like?
He was a scientist who didn't put too much stock in emotions.
Must have been very difficult to grow up with a man like that.
It was. I love my father, and it always hurt me when he kept me at a distance. And the last thing I ever wanted was to be like him.
But you're not. You believe that feelings matter. I know that because I see the way you care about mine.
Judith, I've never been open with a woman since my wife died. But I would really like to try with you.
I'd like that too.
Well, maybe we can talk about it tomorrow at the Megalisha Festival. If you still want to go.
I wouldn't want to celebrate the end of the Punic War with anyone else. Even though I have absolutely no idea what the Punic War was.
Well, actually, it's fascinating. It was when Rome saved itself by... Oh, who the hell cares? They'll have beer. Judith, not to bore you with more facts. The primitive man believed that the air he breathed had magic powers.
I'm not bored.
And when a man and a woman kissed, it was as if their souls were mingling.
So, yeah, as you heard, Judith and Wilson start by perfecting the art of small talk. They're just talking about everything. And Judith gets down to brass tacks pretty quickly, wants to know, why he won't open up to her. And Wilson, talks about his father, which this is the first time we've heard about his father and what he did. He was a scientist and, talking about feelings, all those sorts of things. So it was good to get some background information on Wilson that no doubt or undoubtedly is where he gets his academic side from, his father. But Judith says, you're different than him. You also care about feelings, including mine.
Right, yeah, because Wilson says, it hurt him to be in a family or to have a father that just, didn't want to talk on a personal level, and that, as he grew up, he didn't want to be like his father, but he sort of has become that way a little bit.
Oh, my. So Wilson, he says he's willing to be open with her. They hold hands, and Wilson pulls her in.
Yeah.
for a kiss.
It's like a Donald Trump handshake, shaking somebody. And throughout this scene, like you said earlier, they are being pretty clever with how they conceal his face. Probably the best one is the pitcher of water that kind of conceals it. You can see it. It's funny, and the audience is kind of aware of it. But yeah, this ends in kind of a saucy kiss. And, you know, Jordan...
When Wilson turns on that mojo, I mean...
Yeah, he's got his mojo working. And you told me, like, you sent me a picture, and you're like, 1934, and in terms of the time in the episode, you're like, you're really going to like this. And I did.
Boy, you favorited, you liked it, you retweeted it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. But yeah, it's this is a new side of Wilson, and I like this side.
I do like it.
It's a softer side of Sears and Wilson. All right, so
later at home, Brad is breaking out the makeup again.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. His brothers come down, Randy and Mark. This is the first time we've seen Mark in this episode. He gets a pot shot in, calls Brad Bradina.
Yeah, and if I'm Brad, I'm punching my brother in the shoulder so hard after he says that.
In the face, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe even in the face. Brad, like, unabashedly is interested in makeup here.
Yeah, I mean, it's spread out all over.
Yeah,
he's, like, putting on makeup right now. He doesn't even care
that his brothers have come downstairs. Like, he's just doing it.
He's comparing different shades to match his complexion. And apparently all throughout this, you know, it's been 2 weeks, you know, based on what we saw before. Him and Jessica are still going strong. The doorbell rings while he is applying makeup, and it is Jessica. Apparently he doesn't hear her somehow. He's so interested in his mirror.
Jordan, the doorbell rings, and 4-time Oscar nominee Michelle Williams walks through the door as Jessica.
Boy, does she. Do you want to do a bio now or wait?
I'll do it now. Michelle Williams, I mean, among the likes of, you know, some of the more high-profile actors we've seen on Home Improvement, best known for Brokeback Mountain, Manchester by the Sea, My Week with Marilyn, Blue Valentine. I recently saw her in a very bad Amy Schumer movie, I Feel Pretty. She's in Shutter Island.
I think that's the only one that you've mentioned so far that I've seen.
Oh, you saw that movie?
Yeah, I think I saw it in theaters, actually.
Oh, it's bad. Dawson's Creek, she kind of cut her teeth on. 1998 to 2003, 128 episodes. I'm trying to see. Oh, she's in Halloween H2O in 1998. This is her only appearance on Home Improvement, unfortunately. So, must be the makeup stuff doesn't. You know, she's cool with it when she comes in, but must be long term. She just couldn't reconcile that. But,
yeah, that's tough.
And we'll talk about it. But I liked how, you know, she comes in and Brad is kind of busted. But I appreciated how, and I kind of thought it was going to go this way. Instead of her being like, it's gross, it's weird that you wear makeup, she embraces it. She's cool with it.
She recommends certain shades to him.
Yeah, she recommends it, and I don't know. I thought that was a nice, because I really expected her to be like, oh, you're like a girl, or, you know, something kind of 90s. But sorry, I'm still looking at this Michelle Williams. She's going to be she's playing Janis Joplin in a movie called Janis. That's going to be good.
Wowzers! So keep an eye out for her again.
I like her a lot as a. I like her in Home Improvement, but I definitely like her quite a bit now. So, big time. Lucy Liu. This has been a big season for.
There has been a lot going on there. I didn't even remember Lucy Liu until you said that. But yeah, and also we should mention that she has seen the zit the whole time that he's been trying to.
She knew all along. And I thought the episode ended here. The first time I watched it, I stopped watching at this point, but today I held on a little bit longer.
End scene.
Jordan, you want to talk about what you thought of this?
Well, you know, Brad is again in the house. He has apparently started his Bradley K business because he's got a group of 3 guys around the table, and he's putting on a makeup session of sorts with the other boys, telling them what they should do, how they can still look like the boy next door, but also use makeup. And Tim walks in. He's got a chainsaw on. I thought he might take the chainsaw to the boys. Yeah. But no, he just starts crying and he's upset.
Yeah.
So,
It's a tough break.
Are you glad that you watched the whole episode this time?
I would have been okay if I hadn't seen this, but it's fine. It's for a last scene Home Improvement. I guess it's not bad. You know, usually they're very much throwaway. This was kind of funny, but Jordan, that is roll credits fade to black. Wilson's girlfriend, aka Brad's bad blemish, aka the final episode of season 4. Highs and lows.
Wow. I like this one. as you mentioned before, I thought Judith was a good addition. She's likable. She's got some good jokes in there. The romance obviously feels pretty good to have Wilson get a little bit romantic and something different from him. We got his backstory, all that kind of stuff. I like the B plot with Brad's pimple. Like, I think that's funny, and those scenes towards the end where Michelle Williams comes on, and even that end scene. I think those work for me. They minimize Mark in this episode, and that usually is a good thing.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So that's good. Maybe the only kind of con about this episode is kind of the opening Tool Time Bachelor Week stuff. But even that's not terrible.
It's not.
Really.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So I would say this is one of the better episodes of the season, which is a good way to go out.
Hey man, don't spoil your list.
All right. What about you?
Yeah, I think you maybe like this one a little more than me.
Okay.
I thought it was slightly better than average. I do like having an entire episode kind of constructed around Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked, for the most part, Judith coming in, and the Brad Pimple plotline didn't really do a lot for me. And Brad kind of, it's kind of funny that Brad became so interested in makeup, I guess, but I don't know. I thought it was just okay. I was excited to see Michelle Williams in this because I knew that she was going to be. Tim, this is a solid Tim episode. He's given good advice. He's facilitating the plot, I guess. But there was some funny lines. The impotency, intimacy bit was pretty good. But yeah, for me, just slightly better than average, I would say.
Okay. Well, it's a good way to go out regardless. Of,
I mean, certainly, it's certainly in terms of a finale, it's solid. I'll say solid overall.
Solid, just a solid edition of Home Improvement. Mm-hmm. And with that, let's do social media, and then we can do like what everyone's kind of been waiting for the whole episode.
Yeah, I mean, the episode's really just started. As far as I'm
the
concerned.
recap and the big picture questions. So, if you want to reach out to us, go to thehomeimpodcast.com. We're on Twitter at Home Impodcast, Facebook.com/Home Impodcast. Support the show. Help us do another 100 episodes by going to Patreon.com/Home Impodcast. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's super cheap. Yeah. Less than a cup of coffee a month.
For the price of a cup of coffee.
So. With that, Adam, the polls are back, so I assume there's some news to report there.
There's actually, it's been kind of a big Twitter week. A lot of people have reached out. So poll, last week, polls are back, baby, and they're back with a vengeance.
Oh, yeah. So
this week, you recommended that I do a specific poll, and I'm going to tell you if you ever do that again, the polls are done. Okay? So...
I think you're just looking for an excuse to get rid of the polls after you did that poll.
Hey, I can't. If I do another, I'm going to do the same poll question, like should the polls continue in about 2 weeks and hope for a different result. No. Question, 14 total votes. Have you ever stolen anything? And I noted that votes are anonymous and that our listeners are safe. And Jordan, 29% have never stolen anything. 71% of our listeners have. So we got a bunch of dudes that are just taking things that are our listeners. Can you imagine that?
Have you ever stolen anything, Adam?
Yeah, every day. No. Yeah, Jordan.
You steal my heart all the time.
Yeah, I have stolen. I'm guessing that you probably haven't, and if you have, you're not going to admit it.
No,
so.
I mean, the first thing that immediately comes to mind is like illegally downloaded music. Like that's stealing. I think almost everyone in our generation has done that. Obviously, don't do that anymore.
Yeah, definitely. Movies as well. Other Twitter updates. We got some... What else do we get? There's a new Twitter feed, or I guess new person on Twitter, and they're calling themselves the Home Improvement Boys. I
thought that was us.
It's not us. Well, yeah, we are. At Home Improvement Boys. And this person is a big fan of Mark. And...
Whoa, and that's suspect
I know,
immediately.
I thought so too. And I want to find... All right, so basically this person was saying how they felt that Mark should have gotten more screen time and that he was overshadowed by Brad and Randy, despite being just as good of an actor, in this person's opinion. And I retweeted and did a confused face emoji, and that kind of prompted a debate between some other people. And you know what?
It was basically the same thing as like a climate change debate.
And you know what? The final result? Inconclusive. No one can say. But the Home Improvement Boys Twitter feels like Mark deserved more lines, and I can 100% say I disagree with that.
The good news is that in your reboot, he will get several more lines.
I mean, like 2 or 3 more. He doesn't have a lot. Somebody asked a question on Twitter as well that I don't even. It must be future seasons. I don't even know. It says in the episode with Al and Stacy. Who is Stacy? Yeah, I don't know. Must be future stuff. Yeah, we don't know. So I can't answer a question that I'm not even going to continue. But ask it again when we get to the episode. It'll make sense in like 2 years probably. Otherwise, yeah, like Jordan said, always looking for additional Patreon donors. So any additional dollars and cents you could throw our way helps us keep the podcast going.
Or maybe feedback about how we could improve the show.
I'm entirely
that you would be willing to
less
do that.
interested in that than money. But
well, Adam does not want to change anything to suit our audience, so that's fine.
Audience of one, me. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. That's it on Twitter. Follow us. Get in on the fun.
All right, now that we've gotten that 50-minute piece out of the way, we should get to the real nuts and bolts of the episode.
We should, Jordan.
All right, so we can now get into the most important part of this episode, which is the season recap and our overarching questions about the run and our future. So let's start with maybe we're going to look at season 4 in particular, do a recap, and we can start with bottom 3 episodes and then move on to top 3 episodes.
Jordan, let's just call it what it is. This is our season and summation.
Season and summation.
You're calling it a bunch of other things. We trademarked season and summation, so let's use that. Jordan, we've been covering the 4th season since like January of last year.
It seems like we've been on the season for a really long time.
6 months. You've had a daughter. The world is really a different place when we started this season, and 26 episodes later, which 26 weeks or a half a year. It was hard to remember some of what we'd watched, but
it certainly
we
was.
went back and we're going to do our best here.
We are. So I can lead off if you'd like.
So we're starting with the bottom 3 episodes.
In no particular order. I'm sure we'll have some overlap here. I was also wondering, before I get started, do we count the clip shows?
I didn't. Did you?
Okay. I put them on here, but I got 4 bottom 3 just in case.
Okay.
So I would include those in here just because they're not real episodes and not particularly interesting. But I'm going to start instead with he ain't heavy, he's just irresponsible. And if you recall...
One of mine as well.
This is where Marty gets a big part, and we wish he wouldn't have.
It's also the first Marty episode, so it's like, oh no.
Yeah, he was kind of a bummer. I mean, he's a little bit better now, just as far as like not just running out on his wife and
if you want to have your
twins.
audience like a character, don't have the first time we meet him be like he wants to bail on his wife who just had like twins and just like is this the one where, doesn't he hide outside of the bar?
I was gonna say, and it doesn't look good. Tim and him get in a fight at Big Mike's bar, and then Tim leaves, and Marty's like hiding around the corner and goes back in.
Like, waited for him, cowardly. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the ins and outs of this episode, like it's just it's Marty, and we joke about Marty. He's a fine character, but this is just like a really brutal beginning for a character.
Yes,
and he's just like whiny and. It's just very hard to, like I said earlier, it's hard to redeem a character where the first time you meet him, he's talking about bailing on his wife and his 2 daughters. And, like, he's just, this episode, like, he just, like, acts so petulant. And it's also, like, the worst title we've ever had for an episode. He ain't heavy. He's just irresponsible.
It's a coalescing of a lot of different things. And that's why it's landed in both of our bottom 3s. So, my next one would be The Eyes Don't Have It.
Okay,
and
this was one of my honorable mention. I have 3 and then a couple honorable mentions. So yeah, I agree with you on this one.
Yeah, so we just talked about how we like an episode where Mark doesn't get very much to do, and A Marked Man, if you recall, is centered around him as well. And it was rough. There was some rough moments, where the downfall comes with the banana. with the army knife coming and his acting in response to Tim yelling at him. But this is another one that's kind of centered around him. It's set up as like a mystery, if you recall.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
and it's pretty quickly solved. So that's unfortunate. And then there's like the other side plots are like Tim forgets Randy at school or something, or at practice, and so
Yeah.
it's just not a real compelling episode, unfortunately. Also, we haven't seen those glasses since. So
Yeah,
it's like,
well, you
what happened
you
there?
didn't mention the best part, and that's the
The
spin.
turn.
That spin, though.
That's the only good thing about the episode.
Yeah, but
that I think we talked
it's
about.
so bad it's good. Right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's just like, you're right. I forgot that they kind of pose it as a mystery. It's like, what's going on with Mark? Why is he doing so bad in school? Oh, that's a bad one.
Yeah, that's bad. What about one of yours?
So my second one is It's My Party, and that's the episode where Randy has a party.
Dance floor, baby.
It's the dance floor. It sucks. I mean, like, the worst, it's bad. So, like, the whole, like, buffering the dance floor, Tim buffers the floor, like, a million times. That girl falls, like, in the most foolish-looking way. And then there's the whole scene at the hospital where, like...
I thought you loved that part.
I hate it. No. Where, like, there's the guy that's, like, actually hurt, and Tim is able to somehow, like...
Get his way in.
Yeah, like, because he's friends with the doctor because he's had so many concussions. But the worst part of the episode is the guy that plays Randy's girl. Do you remember the girl's name?
No,
I want to say
don't.
Jennifer, but I think everybody's name is Jennifer on this show.
It's either Jessica or Jennifer, everyone.
Yeah. But that girl's dad comes and he's like, and he's like, I like restoring cars to Cherry. And he like is the least convincing car guy I've ever seen. He's like,
So he's not going to be on your top guest stars?
oh man, he's so far from my top. That guy, I've seen that guy in a lot of stuff, and like he's probably a fine actor, but like he's so bad. He's like, what if I don't know, it's just like Tim's like talking about his car. He's like, I'd love to see your car. It's just like it'd be like me playing a car guy. That's how convincing it is. And by that I mean to say
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, me too. It'd be
Maybe
really
in Legendary
something.
Ninja 5.
Also, it's gross when he drinks the foot punch.
Oh, I forgot about that. That is
Bad
nasty.
episode. Yeah,
Bad episode. Okay. My last one is Super Bowl Fever.
Okay.
I just don't... This one really just bothers me because it doesn't seem believable at all. You get, like, all these people to come over for the Super Bowl. Jill is sick with a fever, and they have, like, no regard for her. They're running into her room while she's sick because their TV downstairs breaks. Tim is not attentive in the least bit. It's just... I don't think it's believable at all.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's good to have all those different characters there. We get Al, we get... Mickey
Pete.
Jones, we get all those other people, but I just didn't like that premise.
Okay.
So
I don't mind that one. Yeah,
Okay.
it didn't. It's not my bottom or my top, kind of middle of the road. But yeah, I suppose their general lack of empathy for Jill is a little far.
I just didn't find it believable at all.
Yeah, and I mean, we want reality,
Realism. That's why we're
home
here.
improvement. That's why we're here. All right, my last one is another Benny Baroni joint, and that's A House Divided.
I was wondering if that would make any list.
Basically, that's the one where they blow up Benny's house, and then he has to move in with the Taylors, and then they rebuild it. I'm not a Benny fan. I didn't enjoy having Benny come to the Taylor house and kind of upend things. And I don't know, the pacing is just weird. Like they blow up the house, which I guess is like cool because they blew up an actual, I think it was the Bewitched house. We said that part was fine, but like, I don't know. Then you get the montage at the end where like everybody's helping rebuild Benny's house and Benny's just like sitting there and
the loafer.
just like loafing and taking it, and he wants him to put on a new paint job. I guess I just don't like the Benny character, so this episode being built around him is just not for me.
Not for you, not for me, not for anybody really.
No. What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't do honorable mentions like you did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that would be on there. But that's the bottom three, right? I guess you have some honorable mentions that you want to talk about.
Another honorable mention is My Dinner with Wilson, which is, I mean, like, it's an okay episode, but they pose the idea, like, what if Wilson's leaving forever? And,
right.
like, you just, like, know he's not going to, so it's kind of dumb.
Also, like, they really convince him spectacularly easily.
Yeah,
I feel like
kind of
so.
like in this one where or in the episode we just covered where he's convinced that he can't make it work with.
There's just
Judah.
not if only these episodes were 40 minutes long.
Yeah,
but they're not.
Yeah, sometimes they do try to cover too much in 22 minutes, but yeah.
All right.
Bottom three, bad cellar dwellers.
Mm-hmm. Top three. Let's go to
Binford's
the top.
Basement.
Binford's Basement. Let's go up to what did you name the top? When we did the clip show.
I don't know, but I'm just coming up with Toast of Taylors.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'll start. So, Jordan, one of my top 3, I'm going to go with Ye Old Shop Teacher.
Oh, I got that on there.
Yeah, I didn't really even remember this episode until I went back and like read through. But
Then you realized you loved it.
Then I realized that it's one of my favorites. It's a 180 right there. No, I like this one. I like the actor, Mr. Leonard Dick O'Neill. Wink, wink. You might be hearing about him later.
Huh.
And yeah, I like this plot. It's a little bit sentimental and sappy. We know we've said ad nauseum that. At least I like those ones, and I think you do as well, where it's a little bit more heartfelt. And this one is that, you get the shop teacher coming back. He kind of taught Tim everything he knows, and he comes on tool time, and it's just not where he was before. And
he's got arthritis.
Yeah, he's got arthritis, and he's kind of embarrassed, and then him and Tim kind of reconcile. It was kind of a nice, sweet episode, and I do like the older actor. So.
It's just it's season 4's version of For Whom the Bell Tolls, right?
Yeah.
And that's,
I would say so.
Need we say more?
I think we've said enough.
I think we have. How about
was that one of your top 3?
It was.
No? Okay. Do you want to riff a little bit more? Or are you good?
No, I mean you covered all
I said everything that needs to be said.
Yeah, I mean it was just an enjoyable, a little bit different episode. You get him like yelling on TV, and there's like real reconciliation that needs to happen. I think you talked about how you were actually uncomfortable during that, which doesn't happen very often. So that made it enjoyable. So
or does it happen all the time?
No, it doesn't. All right, so let's talk about quibbling siblings.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I don't even remember this one.
So this is the idea behind this is Al's favorite bingo caller dies, and they need Brad to come on tool time. And Randy's a little bit upset because he gets the shaft, and there's a little bit of reconciliation that needs to happen between Randy and Tim. Brad gets full of himself and is trying to
He thinks he's going to go out with Heidi.
Yeah, trying to hit on Heidi. And I think it's just a nice episode where Randy and Tim kind of connect, and they have like the comedic background, and they're both witty and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit heartwarming in that way, and I just like some of the other things that they did on that episode with Brad being on tool time. I thought that was interesting. So
yeah, cool. Not on my list, but my second one, Bachelor of the Year.
Oh,
yeah.
You love when Al goes crazy.
I liked it. I don't know. It was a real. That's the one where Al is featured in the magazine, and he gets a little too big for his britches. It's pretty stupid, but I just kind of like the Al turn where he's. Specifically, I really just like the scene at the fancy restaurant that is like half the episode where the women keep coming. I just thought it's a really funny episode, I feel like, even if it is stupid, like the women keep coming up to Al, and Al's a jerk or whatever, but there's just some really, really funny gags, both visual and in the form of jokes. And I like the Al turn in that one. You don't get to see, there really weren't a lot of or at least I don't remember a lot of Al specific episodes this season, and that was one of them, and I had fun with it.
Well, and I think we really liked Tim's kind of role in that episode because he wasn't the focal point. He was just kind of like throwing one-liners everywhere. Yeah. And they were actually pretty funny.
Yeah,
so,
they were good.
So we enjoyed that as well. It's not on my list, but I definitely remember that one. How about Don't Tell Mama?
It's an honorable mention for me.
All right. Yeah. So this is the one where basically Tim smashes up the Nomad. We get the mechanic who you love so much.
I did love that guy. Can't remember his name, but he was good.
I'm surprised he's not on your top guest stars. But there's also like a McGurn's side plot where they're bullying them on the bus. So we kind of get everything that we could possibly want. There's some big action sequences of dropping the beam. There's the hiding the stuff from your wife and kind of the misunderstanding with the mechanic. If you recall, Jill goes to find the car, and
Eddie,
and they're speaking basically having two different conversations, and it's hijinks at its best.
Three's Company-esque, you might say.
You do say all the time.
I do say that a lot. Yeah.
All right, let's hear your third one.
Jordan, let's strip down and talk about The Naked Truth.
Ooh.
I like.
Not ready for that.
We watched it pretty recently.
Yeah.
I guess I can describe. Basically,
you just like anything where people see each other's junk.
Love it, yeah. Raunchy, dirty. I liked it when I liked all of it. Frankly, no. Specifically, this is the one where Tim accidentally sees Nancy in the shower, and then they decide to not tell their respective spouses about it, and then it's just kind of awkward. I just thought it was really funny. There's the moments after Tim sees her in the shower, moving forward, like at the bar, when they're dancing. There's just some good gags. It's funny. I do like Nancy. Can't understand what she's doing with Marty necessarily, but I just remember like feeling fondly about this one.
I remember thinking, like, it was so weird when she came in from her run and she was just like in her like sports bra, and we were like, do people really do that? I don't remember that, but it's a funny episode. I can see why it's up there for you.
Yeah, thanks.
What's
thanks a lot.
What's your honorable
another
mentions
honorable
about?
mention. Root of all evil. Root of all evil. I got possessed during when I was saying that.
A lot of evil.
The root of all evil.
I know exactly why you love this one.
That's that montage, baby.
With that sun and that music.
I don't know. I don't actually remember the episode at all, but I remember that montage, and
that's all that matters.
Yeah, there's a lot of montages this season. You got brothers and sisters. You got Benny Brony's house. It was the year of the montage.
Sure was. Season of the montage for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Is that it for you?
I don't have any honorable mentions.
Not a lot of crossover between us in this one.
No, just he ain't heavy. He's irresponsible.
Yeah, I would say
the old shop teacher.
It was harder to do this than it has been in previous seasons.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because it seemed longer or
Maybe.
Just there were. I don't feel like there were super, super low lows.
No,
necessarily high
I don't think there were a
highs.
lot of terrible episodes. No.
We usually get like some more Halloween-based episodes, which we didn't get or anything like that.
Yeah,
so.
I missed those. Yeah.
So let's move on to top guest stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I know two that are going to be on yours.
All right. I'll start with one that you might not guess, and this is Fred, as played by James Cromwell, and this is from My Dinner with Wilson. Yeah.
You did like him.
Which is a bad episode, but I don't know. I like James Cromwell. Fred and Francine, Maxine. I don't know. Whatever.
Something.
He comes out to the fence, and like Tim is like quizzing him about like Wilson type things, and I don't know. It's just a fun interaction, and I like seeing big time actors like Michelle Williams getting some work on Home Improvement. So yeah, Fred number one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Another big time one, Dave Chappelle, if you recall. He was on the do you remember him?
Yeah, I remember him.
So he came on. I don't remember the episode actually. It was like
it had to do with
I
rings.
think it was Talk to Me or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that. He comes on with Jim Brewer,
mm-hmm.
and they're kind of two young people who are having some troubles with their respective significant others, and he kind of steals the show, so much so that they obviously made that spin-off, and we know he obviously turned into a worldwide superstar. But even in his appearance here, he's funny. He does the voice of his.
It's like his white person voice.
Yeah, his white person voice, but does it as a woman, and it's just funny. And I don't even mind Jim Brewer in this episode that much. I know you didn't like him as much, but
I prefer him as Goat Boy.
Yeah, you love Goat Boy. But yeah, no, he's definitely one of my top guest stars for this season.
My second one, I mentioned him earlier. He old shop teacher himself, Mr. Leonard, played by Dick O'Neill. This was a well-written, kind of well-rounded character. He comes in, he effectively, portrayed anger as well as sentimentality. I just liked him. I dug him.
No, yeah, we talked about that earlier, obviously, with the top 3 episodes, and he makes my list as well. So we both really enjoyed him. Felt authentic, believable, and he was angsty when he had to be,
Yeah, angsty, yeah.
Angsty.
75-year-old man being angsty, listening to Avril Lavigne. Right?
That's what he's doing. My last guest star is the hamster.
We didn't see him.
We didn't see him, but boy, did he make an impact on me. He was in A Marked Man.
Yeah, he was.
We talked
mentioned. I gotta believe they're gonna. Yeah, you know what I said. They're gonna build a whole episode around that hamster at some point. I hope.
Darn well better.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't necessarily have. There was a lot of good guest stars in this season.
My third one,
like,
I put Nancy.
Judith is there.
I put Nancy, even though she's in a couple.
Yeah.
But I like her. Jensen Daggett of Friday the 13th Part 8, a.k.a. Jason Takes Manhattan.
That's the only...
A.k.a. Jason is on a boat for 90% of that movie on his way to Manhattan, and then finally the last 5 minutes is there.
And he takes it, right?
He doesn't even take... He kills like some drug dealers.
Where is that on your list
He
of
did
movies?
Manhattan a favor. It's bad. It's one of the worst.
Well, it's too bad that she's in it. But yeah, she was good. You know,
I like her. I think she's like funny. I like that episode, The Naked Truth. I think she's funny in that. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I feel like I just feel bad for her because she's married to Marty, who wanted to bail on her as soon as she had twins.
Yeah. We get Judith this season. We get we get Harry quite a bit this season. Yeah. Stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of different guest stars that are top notch. So
now, Jordan, you asked me to do a season MVP. Did you do a season MVP?
I did. It's the hamster. No.
So you go to that well once, okay?
Okay. No, I have one. And mine is Wilson.
Wow. Okay.
So let me just lay the groundwork for you. He is reliably there for Tim and Jill, just like he is every other season. But he also gets a couple of episodes where he's the focus. You know, is he going to leave? Is he not going to leave?
He's not.
He's not. He gets a girlfriend. It's there's some development questions about his background that we hear about, with his father and stuff. And he just shows up every time. I mean, we play a clip of him every episode basically. And if I had to think of somebody else, Al had a couple of big episodes, I guess, with Eileen, but Wilson's up there for me. What about you?
It's a boring pick, but Tim Taylor is my MVP. I don't know, I just felt like this was a really good Tim season, and I was like trying to think of other people, but I feel like at this point in the show's run, like the show is at its height, like it's getting some of the highest ratings that like 30 million people are watching this show. It's Tim's show. Between season 4 and season 5 is like the whole best-selling book, top movie, top TV show thing for Tim that we've talked about a few times. But I just thought this was a really good Tim season. He's funny. I felt like they scaled down the kind of like lousy female-centric like voices and somewhat offensive kind of gender stereotypes from the previous seasons. And I just he's a good father, he's a good friend, good husband a lot of the time, and he's a star of the show. So give me Tim.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not bad.
Try argue with it. Poke a hole in it. You can't.
I mean,
it'd be funny if for the next 4 seasons I do Tim as my MVP every time and just use the same argument.
I mean, he bought the boys a hamster, so he's an MVP in my book.
Heck of a dad. Yeah. I mean, he was going to chainsaw his son at the end of the season because he was trying makeup, which is not super gender friendly, but we'll ignore that.
We will. With that, we've come to the end of our season in summation.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
What a season. Where does this rank for you? I don't know.
Wow. I think like you said, just overall, it seems to be a little bit better than some of the other ones because there's just a consistently, maybe not like the best episodes of the run, but it seems like everyone's watchable compared to some of the other ones.
I completely agree. It doesn't maybe have the high highs, but it also doesn't have the low lows, and just there is a certain consistency. Like, I can't remember the last really bad episode we covered.
Yeah, they've kind of settled into a groove at this point. 4 seasons in, they know what they want to do, what works for them, and, it's working for us right now, and it leaves me very optimistic for Season 5.
And Jordan, before we talk about Season 5 and, the next 100, we should, let's do our retrospective, where we get a little introspective with one another. And what we did is we posed 3 questions for each other to answer. We're going to kind of use this to talk about the run so far, our experience, our journey with Tim and the rest of the Taylors. How's that sound?
I mean, I've got my tissues. I'm ready. I've got, the questions we posed, we should talk about. We sent each other ahead of time just 3 or 4 questions that, like you said, are retrospective to think a little bit more about how the show has worked, the nuts and the bolts, what have we liked, what have we not liked, the hardest parts, maybe some of the stuff that we might do in the future, all that sorts of stuff. And, it's a little bit different than what we normally talk about each episode, where we run through the episode, or even these season and summation things where we talk about what we like in the season. This is the whole run. This is
everything we've done. This is, and we, as opposed to just kind of talking in a abstract kind of sense, we wanted to have some structure to it, which is where the questions came from.
That's right. Great idea by you, as always. You sent me 4 questions. I think I sent you 3. I don't remember.
You sent me 4 as well.
Oh, okay. That works out well. So let me just start by asking you maybe the toughest question you're going to be asked in your whole life.
Okay.
What's the hardest part of recording the Home Impodcast? Just when you think about everything in totality, recording, watching the show, all that stuff. What's some of the stickiest points for you? The stuff you struggled with?
I have a couple points here. Hardest part of recording the pod, I would say one of the hardest things to do is when you have to rewatch an episode for the second time that you already know is like bad. So you watch a really, really bad episode once and you're like, okay, normally you just say, okay, I'm done with this, I don't have to watch it again. But we have to watch it a second time and then take notes on it. So sometimes there's kind of a sense of dread with that. I would say also, this is no slight to our audience, but we don't always get a lot of like specific feedback from our listeners, so it's hard to necessarily know what's working versus what's not working, and that's been sort of difficult. And then I also said the general lack of commitment from Patricia Richardson, who has said a couple times she'll come on the podcast, and when we try to get a little bit more concrete in terms of those plans, it's hard to she's tweeting about vaccinations and stuff, so it's hard. We're just trying to get her, but she's a busy woman.
She is a hard one to wrangle. I mean, I like that you took this opportunity to take a shot at one of the stars of the show.
Yeah, you can edit it out if you want.
No, that's fine. I think it's real and authentic.
Yeah.
What
about you, Jordan?
And I like it. Well, yeah. Just thinking logistically now, it's been a little bit harder for us we used to have a set recording time, basically, and that's kind of had to move around with different transitions, and so that's a little bit harder. When you mentioned, not getting feedback from our audience, I think it's kind of funny. If you remember, we did like a survey a long time ago about like stuff they might be interested in. And we tried to implement some of that, but it didn't really change anything. So it's like
I think a big takeaway is that we should just do what we do.
Do what we do. Try to read their minds and see how it goes. But no, I mean it's hard sometimes with getting. We have different ideas of how things work, and so we're working those out and compromising. So of course, I think you always have that conflict and that push and pull, but we do pretty well with that as far as having two different hosts and ideas and whatnot. But yeah, I would say just the scheduling has been pretty tough. So
it's a bear.
It's a bear, and really just trying to figure out like what does the audience really look like for this? I agree. Yeah. How big is it? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
It's huge.
It's huge. Why don't you ask me a question?
Okay, Jordan. How have your feelings for the show changed since we started the podcast? Feelings for Home Improvement.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember before we started, the premise was we felt kind of indifferent about the show. You know what I mean? We didn't like it too much. We didn't like it too little. So that's why we thought it would be interesting. We could give critical feedback, but also enjoy it, which I think is a good premise. And now we're 100 episodes in. I think whenever you do a deep dive like that, you watch 100 episodes, you spend 100 plus hours talking about a TV show. Which, when I say that, is
isn't that tough? Isn't that tough to swallow?
It's tough to swallow. You kind of appreciate it more. You see more of the nuts and bolts, especially when we started talking to like Richard Karn and Carmen Finestra about some of the stuff behind the scenes. You just come to appreciate stuff more like that, more when we do that stuff.
Yeah.
And the acting talent, the ability to write so many jokes every episode, all that kind of stuff. So that's I would say I like it more. Than I did before, but it's still not like my favorite show of all time or anything.
That's kind of what I said. Like, how have my feelings for the show changed? I would say, like, largely my feelings towards the show haven't really changed a lot. I feel, obviously I feel like a sense of attachment to it, but I still think that, like, some of the stuff they do is, like, bad. Like, there are really bad episodes, and, there are good episodes. So largely, I'm not indifferent anymore, which I was indifferent at the start. I do feel attached, but I don't necessarily like think the show is a great American television show or anything like that necessarily. But and then, like you said as well, I have more respect for the performances. Like as far as like Tim Allen as an actor, I think I'm more impressed with him than I expected. Patricia Richardson as well, Earl Hindman as Wilson, Richard Karn. Like they're good acting performances, people doing good work. So yeah, I feel a little bit more, I guess, cognizant of that. But, yeah.
Is there so we've gone through all these episodes, is there like a big surprise that you've had during this whole process, either in the show or like in us recording the show?
Yeah, I would say biggest surprise, I think getting Richard Karn kind of early on was a big surprise. That was like it was, I think, episode 40 or something.
Right.
So, you feel like 40 episodes in, you would be pretty well established, but I feel like we were kind of still...
I still feel like we're...
Yeah, I agree. We're kind of just like getting into a groove, figuring out, who we were, what we wanted to do. So I would say like getting him, how that interview went, I think that went quite well. So that was a big surprise as well. And then like it's kind of the same answer I just gave, but just like in general, the performances, I think like Tim Allen as an actor, he's just like a better actor. He's good at conveying emotion. We've seen him be sad. We've seen him be scared. We've seen him be mad. We've seen him be kind of, his default mode, which is just kind of goofy. He can do it all, and I think that's him as well as Patricia Richardson are good performances. So what about you?
Yeah, when I think about the biggest surprise, I kind of think of, I don't know if these are gigantic surprises or anything, but I think about a couple things. Like all of the, like when Lucy Liu was on, when Michelle,
right,
like all of these like crazy little appearances of these, superstars, and you see them on the show, and a lot of times we're not expecting it. Like I didn't really remember that Dave Chappelle was ever on the show and all that kind of stuff. So I think those are always big surprises. Obviously, getting the Karn Man on a podcast was obviously a big highlight for us. One of the still the most downloaded
one of the
episode
highlights of your life.
Of my life. I've got his number in my phone now. We're gonna hit the links a little bit later.
I'm always kind of worried that when I have a little bit to drink, I'm gonna ask you for Richard Karn's phone number, and I'm just gonna dial him up.
It's a good thing I have it and not you.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So, I would say maybe one of the biggest surprises of just like the production run or whatever. Would be just how naturally you get better after doing something over and over again. I don't feel like we've necessarily practiced certain things, but I feel like we've just gotten better at some aspects of it, recording, making it efficient, being able to talk, all that kind of stuff. If you recall, I just couldn't speak for half of the early episodes. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure you've improved as much as you think. No, I'm just kidding. That kind of transitions into the next question, and that is, what are you most proud of with regard to the podcast? And I'll jump in just because it relates to what you just said, but I would say just general podcast improvements. In the beginning, our sound was poor.
It's weird that we kind of put those out there, with how bad they were.
I know, we didn't really know what we were doing. Like we didn't necessarily know, but our sound was bad. We were not quite as quick on our feet. A lot of interruptions, volume issues, not coherent, not flowing, not able to necessarily speak, and sometimes we still can't speak. But I would say like personal improvements. I feel proud that we put out a pretty professional product. We do the best we can with our resources. And then I would also say I'm just like proud of the consistency. Like we don't miss a lot. We haven't. I don't think we've taken a week off in a long time. Episodes aren't always great. Sometimes we're not necessarily always on, but we've done. I would say I don't know about our first 15 to we've done 80 pretty good episodes. I'd say everything after 20 is pretty solid. And then proud of the interviews and some of that as well.
Yeah,
what about you?
mean every Wednesday. For over 2 years, there's been a Home Impodcast episode in your podcast feeds, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like I don't do very much in my life that's with that kind of regularity. So I think the consistency in putting out shows, like you said, our perceived improved quality of our own. We don't know. Maybe we haven't. maybe we're just as bad.
We feel more confident.
We feel more confident. Getting Richard Karn and Carmen Finestra obviously are big highlights as well. But the consistency I think would be some of the biggest stuff for you.
Cool.
So in those dog days of recording, when it's just you get a bad episode or you're busy and you're short on time, maybe you can't do all those Periscope videos that you want to do, Adam, all that kind of stuff, or those awesome quote images that I used to do on Twitter.
Every couple of weeks, you'll email me something that is and they're always you always have cool ideas, and then we do them, and then
it's so hard. It's so hard to do every single week. But so what's kept you going through those last couple of years overall, I guess, and on those harder episodes?
I would say what has kept me going. In general, I like routines, and I like having a routine and kind of being in a routine. And we're not recording We used to always record Fridays. We're not necessarily doing that anymore, but I do like the routine of recording a podcast. Kind of gives me something to look forward to, an anchor for my week. In addition to that, like, doing the podcast, it's a good opportunity to be creative. I'm working and writing right now. Your job is never really necessarily clear to me, but it's nice to have something on the side where you can kind of, write, make jokes, be clever, just kind of, I feel like creative expression. Off the clock is nice for me to be able to have that opportunity. And then, Jordan, stay in touch with a pal. I think, without getting sappy, we're as close as we've ever been. We talk all the time. I probably talk to you more than I talk to my parents. Granted, it's always about home improvement, but I think it's
still there are other things talked about.
Yeah,
while we
other
do
things
that.
kind of seep in here and there, but I think it's been nice for us to kind of stay in touch and so on. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you keep me accountable. I can't take weeks off because
you
Adam's
were so
always
irresponsible before. Yeah.
Adam is always hounding on me. No, we got to do this, we got to do that, and so I show up every week and try to put in a good effort. No, I think what you talked about, I love learning new things. I had never edited anything. Are
you a lifelong learner?
I'm a lifelong learner,
Or are you a Jordan learner?
Not the latter.
Okay.
So having never really done any audio editing and learning that has been a fun little thing for me. And then obviously getting... We've talked about wanting to do a podcast for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so now actually taking that step forward, reaching 100 episodes, having an audience, even though it's relatively small, I think that's cool that it's weird that people want to listen to us, I guess.
Well, and I think the frustrating thing for us was that we came up with the idea for Serial before Sarah Koenig did, and then she beat us to the punch, and then we were kind of scrambling, what are we supposed to do?
What do we do next? So our next idea was we're gonna do home improvement. It also reminds me of when we used to, on your blog, we would do little text interactions of Serial recaps.
Yeah,
I guess.
I thought those were good. I like that.
Those were the day. I also like the idea that you don't know what my job is after this whole time. And one of my favorite
people often ask me, and I say spreadsheets, and then you always say spreadsheets.
Yeah, that's close enough. It's you, my dad, anyone else really. When they're asked what I do, I always like to hear the answers that they give.
You probably wonder why people ask me what you do. But they do. I don't know why. And I'm always like, you better
tell them to
him.
go to my LinkedIn profile, man.
It's not clear enough.
Jordan,
next question. Thinking about, you mentioned earlier the guest stars we've seen, the people that have been on Home Improvement. Who is someone that's been on Home Improvement that you'd like to interview that maybe isn't a part of the core cast? So that, the people that we see every week. Who's someone that has been on the show that you'd like to talk to?
This is probably going to surprise you. I would say perhaps Brother Marty, William O'Leary.
That does surprise me.
It does surprise you. I mean, I don't necessarily think that he would be an amazing interview or anything, but I think he would have an interesting perspective because he's been on the show he will be on the show for quite a few different seasons. So you could see his perspective on how things have changed in the show from season to season. He's obviously, he's there a lot. So I think getting his perspective would be interesting. Whereas, if you recall Karn, she was on a lot, but she was only on for one season. So you kind of only get that little window. So I think he might have an overarching perspective.
Okay, interesting.
What about you?
Gerald Ford, Ernest Borgnine, and John Elway. 2 of which are dead. Gerald Ford, I would like to interview... Okay, if you were alive, you died in 2006. It would have been nice to be able to interview the 38th President of the United States and just talk about Home Improvement and how that came to be, not ask him anything else. Ernest Borgnine, he's an Oscar-winning actor, started in the 30s, 40s, and then went into the 2000s. I just think it would be cool to talk about the career overall. And then John Elway, great NFL quarterback, pretty good general manager. Got drafted by the Yankees. I want to talk to him about all these things, and of course, Home Improvement as well.
I wasn't even thinking about like these random guest stars that come on.
That's completely how I took it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, well, the context would be helpful. But, I am surprised in that case that Rodney Dangerfield didn't make your list.
Oh, well, we haven't covered him yet, so.
It wasn't on top of mine, so.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
Gerald Ford, of course. I mean, he's the president, Jordan. Isaiah Thomas, maybe, as well.
Yeah, I mean, now that you're thinking those, I'm thinking Dave Chappelle. I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you said, Isaiah Thomas, all that kind of stuff. So, all right. I've got one more question for you, Adam.
Okay, yeah.
Unless there's other ones that come up and I want to ask them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think works well? Like,
this is like the hardest question to answer.
It is.
I don't know.
Segments, jokes, etc. I mean, we mentioned earlier that we don't really get a ton of feedback.
Yeah,
necessarily.
I mean, I can't. It's hard to say what works well. I can tell you what I like, or like what I feel like works well when we're doing it. But in terms of like audience feedback, we don't really know. I thought Bits of Wisdom was like our first like good bit.
Smashing success.
I don't know. I thought that was like a good bit we did. Maybe something we can return to again at some point. But I enjoyed doing that. I think the question of the week as a end to the episode is kind of effective. You're sort of blending something that happened in the episode with maybe something a little bit more personal, and I just sort of like that as a wind down to the episode. I think alternative titles. I don't know. I don't remember who came up with that. It wasn't either one of us.
It was a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a really good idea. I should find out who that was.
It might have been Awesome Sauce or something.
Yeah, I think it was Awesome Sauce. That was a really good idea, and that's something that I like doing because there is sort of the built-in creativity. And then, like in general, I would just say like gotcha journalism. Anytime I say that, I think that works pretty well. And then
you're like 5 things that you say all the time, like the Sex and the City is
Sex and the City, gotcha journalism. And then I would say just like bad episode. I like it. It's nice to have a really bad episode every once in a while because I don't know. I feel like the worse, the more bad the episode, the better our episodes are, the better the recording. Just because it's kind of like angry and a little bit frustrated.
You're just railing against the show the whole episode. So
what about you?
Yeah, I think it's obvious to me some of the things that didn't work well because we like killed them real quick. Like the Wilsometer was just that was like 3 episodes, so so that one didn't last very long. Yeah. You liked the idea at the time.
Yeah, it's fine.
But no, I agree. Alternative titles is perhaps one of my favorite things to do every week, although I forget them half the time.
Yeah.
And they're not good all the time. Question of the week, like you said, it's something we get to know each other a little bit more. The audience gets to know us a little bit more. But yeah, those are kind of the biggest things that I think work well. Playing the Wilson clip where we know that's going to happen every week. You get some of the show. For the people who aren't necessarily watching, they get kind of a clip and hear the voices and stuff like that. So I think all that stuff works pretty well. Sometimes the start is a little bit rough because sometimes we have good articles to talk about and sometimes we're just like, what do we do?
I don't know. That's
it's hit or miss.
That's often my favorite part to do, though, just because it is less rehearsed and
could be anything.
Yeah. Jordan, last question I think I have, and I think we're done with your questions, but if you could have one piece of memorabilia from the show that you could own it yourself, anything tangible from an episode besides the hamster, what would you choose and why?
Besides the hamster?
Yeah, I know.
Well, what's the point of this question?
Caveat.
This is actually, I really struggled with this question. Okay. There's not like, I don't know. I thought maybe like a tool belt or some sort of tool. I could use it actually practically, and obviously it would remind you of the show. Really what it came down to at the end was Brad's saxophone.
Okay. Yeah, that would be cool.
It would be just hang that on the wall. Remember all those times that he was terribly playing the saxophone. I don't see why not. Or even I would just get a piece of it, and then it wouldn't take up so much space. So
I like it.
What about you?
I said Tim's Detroit Lions XXL shirt that he wears.
Great call.
It's in the opening credits. I feel like that is like that image of him in that shirt is like what you see most often promotionally, like with Home Improvement, like him in that shirt, and he wears the shirt throughout the run. So we're Lions fans as well. So I think that would be cool. Or just a chunk of the fence, from the set, just a piece of the fence, that separates him and Wilson. I think would also be cool. Maybe not like a big piece, just like a small piece.
The best part about the fence is that it's a metaphor.
The fence is a metaphor for America in some cases.
In some ways, yeah, I agree. No, those are... I infinitely like your two choices better than mine.
Yeah, me too.
Good. That's good.
Well, Jordan,
I hope this was enlightening.
I think
for
it was.
People. I hope people enjoyed us indulging ourselves.
Yeah, it is. It is a great indulgence, but 100 episodes in, you're entitled to it.
That's right. We are entitled to it.
And I think, Jordan, the audience is letting us know how much they liked our episode, isn't it? Do you hear that?
Oh my goodness, you guys are too much. Too much. You guys.
We do it all for our listeners. Jordan,
calm down,
thank you
everyone.
for joining me, listeners. Thank you so much for listening. Sincerely. Following us through these first 100 episodes. We are very appreciative of your time and your downloads and everything that goes with that. So, listeners, thank you for listening. Jordan, thank you for joining me for these 100 episodes. Take care.
Take care, everybody.